Everybody, this is Rent-A-Goalie Rob. This is my first video that I'm doing that's commentary. I'm going to talk about the NHL, in particular the goaltending situation across the league. There's a few teams I want to look at. The first team is Seattle Kraken. Their goaltending has been an issue, to say the least, this season. They've got three capable goaltenders and one that I think is really elite, and he's going to really rise above the rest of the three of them there. So Chris Driedger has a save percentage of 833 and a GAA of 343 and only 2 games played. I think that's such a small sample to really to just say, he's done. No, I think you still have to give him at least 10 games to see just how good he is. Joey Daccord is the guy I'm going with. 855 save percentage and a 406 goal against average. He only had 2 games, and one of those games was against the red hot Edmonton Oilers. So they put him out there against the Wolves. His first game was against the Devils. I don't know how hot they were back then when he played them that first game. And then their third goalie is a guy by the name of Philip Grubauer, who I think is just horrendous. I think he's not that good, at least not this season. He was a lot better when he played with Colorado, but he's just not able to get the job done for Seattle. He's just too leaky. His confidence is not very good, and his skill level is not that good either. And this season really stands out as a bad season for him. He's played 11 games and his save percentage is 882. Okay, that is subpar. You have to be at least 900% or 0.900 to be NHL caliber, and he's just not meeting the standard. His GAA is over 3. If you're letting in 3 or more, you're not going to win too many games. And again, his game sample size is a lot larger than Driedger and Daccord with 11 games. So give them both at least 10 games, Driedger and Daccord, and we can see who will emerge as their starting goalie, their number 1. And I predict it will be Daccord by the end of the season. If they just put Daccord in, I think they can make a run for the playoffs. I know this sounds a little crazy, but I think they can do it. Seattle has got a really strong team, and the when they play home, it's hard to beat them. The audience is so loud that they're like another player out there. So just put in Daccord. You're going to see they're going to steal a lot of games, or I should say he will steal a lot of games for them. So that's the first team I wanted to cover. Let's just go through this list. Mrazek is not doing very good. Only played 2 games, but I don't think he's a good fit for Toronto. Toronto is such a highly critical place and a very high pressure place to play in, both on the ice and off the ice. He's just not a good fit for this organization. Jack Campbell really is the number 1. Mrazek was a waste of money, in my opinion. They should have went for Reimer. And yeah, just have Reimer again. We're going to talk about Reimer a little bit later. Spencer Knight is actually a very good goalie. He's just having a little bit of a slump. I think he's going to emerge as the number 1, but they have a good tandem in Florida with Bobrovsky and Knight. So Spencer Knight is a future superstar, a future all-star goaltender. Really very highly skilled, and he has good confidence, good positioning. He's got the skills to be a top 10 goalie in the NHL. So that's all for Spencer Knight, and Florida's having a really good season so far. Marc-Andre Fleury, if you look at his save percentage, let's look at his last 10 games. He's only played about 9 games now this season. But if you look at his first 5 games, the save percentages in particular are really bad, not so good. But that's to be expected when you play with a new team, as he is doing with Chicago, and they have not had a pretty good run the last few seasons now. They went from Stanley Cup champions, kind of perennial playoff team, to basement dwelling team. So let's look at his last 10 games. If you look at the game log here, um, it's taking a while to load, but just trust me when I say that one of his games was at 600 save percentage. So he had a 60% save percentage in one of those games, but they were all pretty subpar, like really bad. But that's because, again, growing pains when you're adjusting to a new team and a new organization. That's to be expected. This is what happened to Ed Belfour when he was playing with Toronto for the first dozen or so games. People were booing him off the ice, and he turned out to be one of the best goalies the Leafs ever had. And you look at his last 5 games, he is starting to show a little bit of that. He's showing vintage Fleury save percentages and letting in very few goals. 1 goal here, 1 goal there. And I think one of those was a loss. Yeah. He lost letting in 1 goal. So, yeah, he stole that game, but they didn't capitalize on that. 838 save percentage? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. So he made 37 saves and let in 1 goal. 973. Okay. I looked at the wrong game. So 973 save percentage and then a 967. This is, he had a bad game. Carolina's a really hot team. Winnipeg, I don't know what to say about them, but Pittsburgh, his former team, 955. So they ride this guy. They can ride Fleury to maybe not a playoff spot, but they could finish, in the bubble, just outside of playoff contention. But they could make a playoff run. It's too early to say that whether they will or won't. Carolina's seeing a really good season with their new goalie Anderson there. It seems to be like the revenge of the Leaf goalies. Former Leaf goalies are doing really good with their new teams. Jake Allen's doing okay. Thatcher Demko, I'm really tracking his career. He's going to be an all-star in the future. He's looking really good. Spectacular saves, highlight reel saves almost every time he plays. And save percentage 907. So he's performing pretty well on Vancouver, which isn't the greatest team, but they're not the worst team either. So he's going to go places. Thatcher Demko, I definitely look forward to seeing his games. But Seattle's if not my number one team right now, and the top 3 most exciting teams to watch this season. Bernie's having a pretty good year. He actually had a good season last season as well. And looking at Holtby's making a comeback. Like he had a bad season, as did Jonathan Quick, but both he and Jonathan Quick, Holtby is having a good season so far, and Quick as well, really turning around. We're seeing a turnaround for both of them this season. So besides Seattle, the other team I'm really excited to watch this season so far, obviously Toronto, it's my number one team. Jack Campbell is just the best thing to happen to the Leafs since Potvin, Cujo, Belfour, and then more recently Reimer. Anderson, I wouldn't say he's one of the best goalies. He's doing good now, but he wasn't the greatest on Toronto. He was just performing pretty good, but in the playoffs, he's not a playoff performer. Jack Campbell is. Reimer is too. Cujo was. Potvin was, and Belfour was as well. He won a Stanley Cup. He's only one out of that group of Leaf goalies to win a Stanley Cup. And his numbers are spectacular. Look at 936 save percentage and a 1.90 goal against average in 12 games played on a Leaf team that has been up and down. Frederik Andersen having a pretty good season as well. Again, the revenge of the Leaf goalies, former Leaf goalies. 939 and 174 GAA. Really good numbers. James Reimer is putting up really good numbers in only 6 games with San Jose. He's emerging to be potentially their number one the 940 save percentage, and a 1.82 goal against average for him. So the three teams I'm really excited to watch this season is our Seattle Kraken. I think number one is Kraken. Number two is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and number three is the San Jose Sharks because of James Reimer. I'm a big James Reimer fan. He's a great goalie, and I think he was just been denied his chance to show his full potential of what he could do in the postseason ever since the breakdown that the Leafs had against the Boston Bruins back in 2013, where he stole games 5 and 6. They had no reason. They had no place even being there in the playoffs, let alone Game 7. And all the blame, unfortunately, is directed towards James Reimer for letting in the goals that he let in on Game 7, but he did steal Games 5 and 6. Can't forget that fact. So it was a defensive collapse in front of him. I think it's not fair to put all the blame on him. If you're going to do that, then you have to also, give him the accolades for stealing Games 5 and 6, and also for even breaking the Leafs, I think, over 10-year playoff drought. They hadn't been in the playoffs for over 10 years until he became the number one. He took the starting job from Giguère, and they rode him to the playoffs. But after that playoff run, they, for some reason, decided to get Jonathan Burney and then put him up against Reimer, and decided Reimer's not number one. They're going to do the 1A, 1B tandem thing. And that didn't work for Reimer. He needs to be number one. He can play backup, but he's much better when he gets more regular games. When he has a regular schedule, he stays sharp. But if you put him as a backup, he tends to perform not as strongly as if he was the starter. So those are the three teams I'm most excited to watch this season. Seattle Kraken, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the San Jose Sharks, with a close, actually, maybe the fourth team would be Chicago Blackhawks, just to see Fleury going to killing and just, hopefully lead them to a playoff spot. I do feel that Vegas made a very poor decision in giving him up. Leonard is not as good a goalie as Fleury. He's not as popular either, but I mean, it's not about popularity. It's about what can you do on the ice. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Let's look at the standings. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, just in my opinion. The Vegas Golden Knights are they cost themselves a playoff spot by giving up Marc-Andre Fleury. And then, so that's a fourth team I'm excited to watch. And the fifth team would be Florida Panthers because of Spencer Knight. And sixth team would be Thatcher Demko, just because he's such a really very skilled goalie. If you saw one of his saves he did, he didn't even have a blocker. He made a save. It was just incredible. The no blocker save there. He could have had his hand explode. Slap shot it at his hand. But let's take a look at the standings so far this season. It's only at the most, see, some teams played 13 games so far this season. So we're only, 14 games. We're about 1/6 of the way. 1/6 of the season has been played. We can see the standings. Let's look at them really quickly. So Chicago is towards the basement, but I think you're gonna see them a lot closer to around 9, 10, maybe 9 to 12 towards the end of the season. Seattle, I think you might see them sneak up if they decide to put Daccord as number one, but if they just continue to ride Grubauer because they just want to, they're going to end up in the last four placements. San Jose, I think if they just continue the Reimer, they could vie for a playoff spot. Vegas, like I said, they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're showing that right now. There's early signs of that at the start of the season. Edmonton are just killing it this year. They're doing really well, firing on all cylinders, and McDavid is just like Wayne Gretzky. That's what he's playing like right now. Maybe even better. I don't know. He's just destroying it. Highlight highlight reel goals and everything, just deking 4 players like it's nothing, like he's a video game, like a cheat code. Anaheim doing pretty well. St. Louis, okay. Calgary, Winnipeg. So that's the Western Conference. Ottawa's last place. Well, they gave up Dackord. He was the future, and that's what happens when you give up goaltending. Montreal, Price is injured, so yeah, it's going to happen. They're going to be last place until he comes back. He can steal some games and bring you back into playoff contention. Philadelphia is doing pretty well, but standings wise, it's not showing. But goaltending wise, I think their goalie is up there. I forgot the guy's name, but he's performing. He's playing pretty well thus far. Tampa Bay is 8th place. And I'm surprised to see Toronto so high up because they were having a bit of a slump at the start of the season, but they really picked it up in the last 10 games, haven't they, to 6-4. And so they are 8-5 so far this season. And yeah, so again, Seattle, Toronto, which is seems to be in playoff contention. They're 5th right now. Carolina with Anderson there, and Spencer Knight and Bobrovsky just destroying the league. Look at their GAA; they probably have the lowest GAA in the Eastern. Okay, they're not, but it's actually Carolina and Anderson there. But San Jose's got one of the lower GAAs. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about, just goaltending and where I see these teams being towards the end of the season and who's going to be the number one. And I do predict, just makes sense to me, for Seattle to go with Joey Dackord as number one. That should be your starter for Seattle. Toronto doing the right thing, having Campbell as number one. Kind of as Providence that Mrazek's injured, so that Campbell will get the bulk of the games moving forward. He'll steal a lot of games. He already stole a lot of games. He stole a few already. He has 2 shutouts. He's got 2 shutouts, and he's only played a few games too. And in terms of San Jose, yeah, they should go with Reimer as their number one. And the last team, yeah, Florida, Spencer Knight. Yeah, they're going with Spencer Knight, and that's the right decision as well. So I do see a problem with Seattle. They're not going with Dackord yet, but that could change. I think they're going to start to see if they give him another chance and he steals a game for them, they're going to give him another one, then he'll steal that game. They're just going to realize, yeah, this guy's the real deal. He's hungry. He's got the talent. He's got the fight in him. And he's the best goalie of the 3 out of Dreger, himself, and Grubauer. See, I don't even remember his name. And then looking at the other team, that was San Jose. Yeah, Reimer definitely stands out among himself and Aiden Hill, who Aiden Hill's just a big dude, but he's not really that talented in my opinion. His numbers aren't even the top 10, although it is early in the season, but Reimer's got way more experience and he's just a better goalie. Aiden Hill, in my opinion, is overrated. And we're starting to see that, Reimer is rising to the top. The cream rises to the top. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for your views and everything. Please give us a video a like and this channel a like. And please subscribe. This is Rental Goalie Rob. And have not played a game since October 2020. But do keep watching my videos. I think you're going to see a progression. You're going to see an evolution of a goalie that was self-taught, actually still self-taught, and just gaining confidence and becoming more and more, to my full potential. So that's all for now. God bless you, and see you next time.